What does Marcellus Wallace look like?
What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English and what?
Pulp Fiction wasn't just a movie. It was a grenade thrown into Hollywood. An $8 million indie that grossed over $200 million. A film that stitched together gangsters, boxers, hitmen, and heroin into a puzzle of blood, humor, and shock. But what made it legendary wasn't just the story. It was the chaos behind the camera, the accidents on set, the feuds, and the weird little choices Quentin Tarantino made that changed film forever. Today we're diving into 20 strange facts about Pulp Fiction, the kind of details that Quentin might not want you to know, but that make the movie even more unforgettable. Stick around until the end, because the strangest secrets are in the bonuses. Number 1. John Travolta learned how to shoot up from a real addict. To play Vincent Vega in Pulp Fiction, John Travolta knew he could not fake the heroin scenes. He wanted them to feel raw, unsettling, and uncomfortably real, so he went straight to the source. Travolta met with a former heroin addict who gave him a first-hand tutorial on how to prepare, cook, and inject the drug. He studied every detail, the way the addict handled the spoon, the flick of the syringe, even the subtle body language that came after the hit. But here's where it gets truly strange. Travolta did not stop at technical notes. To understand the inner burn of heroin, he carried the lesson home. He filled a syringe with tequila and practiced shooting up, letting the alcohol sting and burn under his skin as a proxy for the drug. Then, when the cameras rolled, he reversed everything he had learned. The motions you see on screen are not random. They are Travolta retracing step by step what his real-life source showed him, only flipped in his mind to mirror what heroin would feel like going in. What makes it eerie is that you are not just watching acting. You are watching Travolta channel a ritual taught by someone who once lived it. That strange mixture of imitation and invention is part of why Vincent Vega feels so disturbingly authentic, because in a way, the addiction is haunting the performance. Number 2. The famous dance scene was inspired by a cartoon. The twist contest with Uma Thurman? Most people think Tarantino borrowed it from European cinema. In truth, it came from a cartoon. He grew up watching the 1960s show Clutch Cargo, where characters did odd, jerky dances. Tarantino told Travolta to move like that. Travolta himself added his own old-school Saturday Night Fever moves, mixing parody with sincerity. The result? The most famous awkward dance in movie history. Number 3. Bruce Willis took a pay cut. Bruce Willis was a star, but his career was cooling after a string of flops. He believed in Tarantino's vision so much that he agreed to a fraction of his normal salary just to be part of the film. Ironically, his boxer storyline became one of the movie's most iconic, and Pulp Fiction reignited his career. Number 4. Samuel L. Jackson almost lost his role. Believe it or not, Samuel L. Jackson was not the first choice for Jules Winfield. Quentin Tarantino originally leaned towards Lawrence Fishburne. When Jackson came into audition, the energy was off. He was calm, even restrained, and it almost cost him the role. Then came the weird turning point. A studio executive casually called him Lawrence, as if he were a stand-in for Fishburne. That slip lit a fire in Jackson. His anger boiled over, and when he launched into Jules' now legendary monologue, the fury was not performance. It was real rage aimed at the room. The strange part is that this accidental insult created the Jules we know. Every sharp edge of his delivery came from Jackson channeling that humiliation. Here is the eerie detail. People in the room later said the air felt charged, like they were not watching an audition, but being confronted by someone who could actually pull the trigger. It was not acting anymore. It was possession. That uncomfortable, unsettling force is what won Jackson the role, and it is why Jules Winfield still feels so dangerous today. Number 5. The briefcase mystery. The glowing briefcase. Fans still argue about it. Tarantino has said it's whatever the audience wants it to be. Some claim it's Marcellus Wallace's soul, stolen by the devil, which explains the band-aid on the back of his neck. Others say it's pure MacGuffin, a plot device with no meaning. But here's a weird fact. The glow came from a simple orange light bulb hidden inside. Low-budget magic turned into eternal mystery. Number 6. Uma Thurman did not want to play Mia Wallace. Uma Thurman was not eager to step into Mia Wallace's shoes. In fact, she flat out refused the part more than once. The character frightened her. The drugs, the darkness, the mystery of Mia all felt like too much. But Quentin Tarantino would not let go. He called her personally and, in one of the strangest recruitment tactics in Hollywood, he read the script to her over the phone, line by line, page by page, as if casting a spell with his own words. By the end of the reading, she gave in. The odd detail is that Thurman later confessed she still did not really understand the film until it was finished. She was playing a character she did not yet fully grasp, like a performer wandering through a dream that only made sense when she finally saw the completed movie. And maybe that is what makes Mia Wallace so haunting. She is played by an actress who, in real time, was dancing in the dark with a role she could not quite define. Number 7. The $5 milkshake joke was a dig at Los Angeles. When Vincent Vega scoffs at the idea of a $5 milkshake, audiences laughed, but in 1994 that line was an inside joke aimed straight at Los Angeles. Tarantino was poking fun at the city's obsession with gourmet everything and its ridiculous food prices. At the time, trendy diners and boutique restaurants were actually charging $5 for a milkshake, and that was without the shot of bourbon Vincent jokes about. The funny part is how perfectly the line captured LA's culture of style over substance. You could buy the same drink at a regular diner for $2, but slap it on Melrose Avenue with a fancy name like Organic Madagascar Vanilla, and suddenly it cost $5. Tarantino knew the absurdity and turned it into dialogue that has outlived every real milkshake on the menu. The odd twist is that the line worked too well. After Pulp Fiction blew up, restaurants leaned into the joke and started actually charging $5, proudly marketing their $5 shakes as if they were selling a piece of movie history. What began as a jab at overpriced LA food culture ended up fueling it, proof that sometimes satire only makes the thing it mocks even stronger. Number 8. Harvey Keitel was paid $1 million for 5 minutes of screen time. As Winston Wolfe, Harvey Keitel appears for only about 5 minutes, but his presence is unforgettable. Keitel was already a respected Hollywood veteran, known for films like Taxi Driver and Mean Streets, and he brought instant authority to the role. Tarantino desperately wanted him because Keitel had a unique ability to radiate calm in the middle of chaos. When the film spirals into madness after Marvin's accidental death in the car, it is Keitel's Wolf who restores order. Every line he delivers is clipped, precise, and confident, as if he has handled 100 disasters just like this. That sense of absolute control was exactly what Tarantino needed to tie the film together. The price tag was enormous compared to the budget. Keitel was paid a full $1 million for his short appearance, which meant his minutes on screen were some of the most expensive in independent cinema history. But it was money well spent. Without the Wolf, Pulp Fiction would have not had its strange sense of balance, that sudden shift from chaos to cool precision that makes the cleanup scene so memorable. Keitel's performance is proof that screen time is not what makes a role legendary. It is presence. And in just a handful of minutes, Harvey Keitel gave Tarantino exactly what he needed, a figure of icy control to rescue the story from total madness. Number 9. The Jack Rabbit Slims set cost more than anything else. The retro 1950s restaurant where Vincent and Mia share their milkshake and dance is one of the most iconic scenes in Pulp Fiction, but Jack Rabbit Slims did not exist. It was a massive set built entirely from scratch, and it swallowed almost a third of the movie's entire budget. Why not just film in a diner? Because Quentin Tarantino wanted more than realism. He wanted surrealism. He wanted a place that felt like a dream of America, not America itself. Every inch of the set was a shrine to pop culture ghosts. Giant cutouts of Marilyn Monroe, Buddy Holly, and James Dean wandered the floor, while cars were sliced in half to become booths. It was a diner that could never exist in real life, a place frozen between nostalgia and parody. The strange part is that Tarantino directed the scene like it was unfolding inside a theme park ride, complete with celebrity impersonators serving food. Here is the eerie oddity. For many fans, Jack Rabbit Slims feels so vivid that they swear they have been there, as if it was once a real restaurant tucked away in Los Angeles. Some even traveled to the city after the film's release hunting for it, only to discover it was pure cinematic illusion. That blurring of memory and reality was exactly what Tarantino wanted, a restaurant that never existed, but somehow still haunts the imagination like it does. Number 10. The overdose scene was reversed. When Mia Wallace collapses from her overdose and Vincent slams an adrenaline needle into her chest, it is one of the most shocking moments in Pulp Fiction. Audiences squirmed because it looked horrifyingly real. But here's the strange truth. John Travolta never actually stabbed Uma Thurman at all. Tarantino filmed the shot in reverse. Travolta pulled the syringe out of Thurman's chest, and then the footage was played backwards, creating the illusion of the violent plunge. It was cheap, safe, and incredibly effective. The strange part is how convincing it became. Viewers swore they saw the needle go in. Even medical professionals commented on how disturbingly accurate it looked. What makes it even stranger is the psychological trick behind it. The human mind fills in the motion it expects to see, so our brains supply the stab that never really happened. In other words, the audience did the stabbing in their own imagination. That is why the moment lingers, not because of a prop or special effect, but because Tarantino literally hacked the way our brains process fear. Number 11. Quentin Tarantino nearly played Lance himself. Quentin Tarantino originally wanted to step in front of the camera as Lance, the strung-out drug dealer. He even rehearsed the part, complete with the twitchy energy and chaotic pacing that would define the character. But as production loomed, Tarantino admitted that directing the film while performing such an intense role would have been overwhelming, so he handed the part to Eric Stoltz, who brought his own blend of menace and humor. Tarantino instead gave himself the smaller role of Jimmy, the foul-mouthed coffee obsessive whose home becomes the scene of chaos after Vincent accidentally shoots Marvin in the car. Jules and Vincent drag the bloody mess into Jimmy's house, setting off one of the strangest cleanup jobs in movie history. What makes this stranger is how much of himself Tarantino had already written into Lance. Friends who read the script before casting said the role sounded exactly like Quentin in his day-to-day life. Fast-talking, darkly funny, and a little unpredictable. Some crew members even speculated that if he had played Lance, the performance would have been disturbingly authentic, almost too raw, like Tarantino wasn't acting at all but exercising a part of himself. Number 12. The car was stolen. Vincent Vega's cherry red Chevy Malibu was not just a prop. It was Quentin Tarantino's personal car, and he loved it. But after filming Wrapped, the car vanished. Someone stole it right off the street, and for nearly 20 years, it disappeared without a trace. Tarantino assumed it was gone forever, another piece of Hollywood lost to the shadows. Then came the strange twist. In 2013, police in Oakland randomly uncovered the car during an investigation into an entirely different crime. The Malibu had been repainted and passed from hand to hand like some kind of cursed relic, hiding in plain sight while its true identity was forgotten. Here is the bizarre part. By the time it resurfaced, fans were already whispering that the car itself felt like part of a Tarantino story. Stolen, missing for decades, and then resurfacing like a character stepping out of the past. It was as if the car had lived a secret life of its own, vanishing into myth before rolling back into reality. Number 13. The Bible passage was fake. Before Jules delivers justice, he recites Ezekiel 25:17 in that booming Samuel L. Jackson voice, a passage that chills audiences to this day. But here's the strange truth. The real Bible verse is nothing like what Jules says. The actual scripture is short and simple. Tarantino invented most of it, stitching together fragments of other verses, then adding his own menacing poetry. The crazy part is that Tarantino's fake scripture has now become more famous than the real one. Some fans even quote it as if it is genuine, believing they are reciting holy text when they are really repeating lines from a movie. In fact, pastors, rappers, and even athletes have used Jules's words as if they carried biblical weight. Here's where it gets eerie. That invented verse has slipped into culture so deeply that it has blurred the line between scripture and cinema. For some people, Tarantino literally rewrote the Bible without them realizing it. That is the power of the scene. Not just a performance, but a strange cinematic gospel that outshines the original. Number 14. Tarantino wrote it in Amsterdam. Tarantino wrote much of Pulp Fiction in Amsterdam cafes while smoking hash. That's why Vincent Vega's storyline begins with him talking about Europe, hash bars, and the Royale with cheese. Those details weren't just clever writing, they came straight from Tarantino's own trip. Number 15. The movie almost had no money. When Tarantino pitched Pulp Fiction, studios laughed him out of the room. It was too weird, too violent, too disconnected. He finally got financing from Miramax, but even then, the budget was only $8 million. To save money, Tarantino reused sets, borrowed props, and kept shooting simple. Ironically, the film went on to gross over $200 million worldwide. Number 16. John Travolta was paid less than a supporting actor. Even though Travolta was the star, he was considered washed up at the time. He only earned $150,000 for the entire movie. Compare that to Bruce Willis's $1 million paycheck, and you can see how risky Tarantino's casting felt to Hollywood. Number 17. Tarantino insisted on real film violence. Quentin Tarantino refused to let the violence in Pulp Fiction feel cheap or staged. He wanted every gunshot, punch, and splatter to carry a physical weight that unsettled the audience. When Marvin gets shot in the car, the explosion of blood was created with squibs and pressurized packs that burst with shocking force. The car was so drenched that the crew spent hours between takes scrubbing the seats, the windows, and even the ceiling, only for it to be covered in blood again as soon as cameras rolled. The strangest part is how Tarantino turned horror into humor. Marvin's sudden death is grotesque, but it also plays as one of the funniest and most absurd moments in the film. Crew members said it felt eerie on set because people would burst into laughter at something so gruesome that it almost seemed forbidden. Tarantino thrived on that uneasiness, pushing the audience into a space where they were never sure if they should laugh or recoil. Number 18. It won Cannes by surprise. When Pulp Fiction premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in 1994, the reaction was chaos. Some people laughed at the absurdity of the violence, others walked out in disgust, and a few shouted boos from the balconies. At the same time, a wave of applause grew so thunderous it turned into a standing ovation that seemed to last forever. Critics were divided, but the jury could not ignore the energy buzzing through the theater. In the end, the film won the Palme d'Or, the festival's highest honor, catapulting Tarantino overnight from cult director to international icon. The strange thing was how polarizing it remained even as it triumphed. Some French critics whispered that the film felt like a virus infecting cinema with its strange mix of humor and brutality. Others compared it to watching a dream where comedy and murder danced together. That tension between disgust and fascination became the film's true legacy, a reminder that sometimes the most divisive stories leave the deepest mark. Number 19. The movie revived the word pulp. Before the film, the word pulp was practically a relic of the past. It referred to cheap magazines printed on rough, low-quality paper filled with lurid crime, adventure, and horror stories. By the 1990s, the word had nearly vanished from popular culture. Then Tarantino resurrected it and gave it a new, dangerous life. After Pulp Fiction, pulp no longer meant dusty dime store novels. It became shorthand for Tarantino's brand of storytelling. Violent, funny, shocking, and oddly stylish. Suddenly, the word was everywhere again. Posters, reviews, and film schools used it as if it had always been part of the cinematic vocabulary. The eerie twist is that the movie almost seemed to resurrect not just a word but an entire forgotten world. Old pulp magazines started selling again at collector prices. Writers and directors began copying the formula, trying to capture that strange mix of trashy grit and poetic cool. It was as if Tarantino had opened a portal to a pulp dimension where the sleaziest corners of pop culture could live forever. Number 20. Quentin Tarantino's mother regrets mocking him. When Tarantino was young, his mother mocked his writing and told him he'd never make it. Years later, after Pulp Fiction, he refused to give her any financial support. He said, "There will be no house for you. You get nothing, because you mocked me." One of the weirdest revenge stories in Hollywood. Here are a few bonus facts for the die-hard fans. That strange ticking clock you hear in several scenes was not created for Pulp Fiction at all. Tarantino lifted it straight from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, a sly nod to one of cinema's masters of suspense. The very structure of the film was another deliberate throwback. Tarantino modeled it after the pulp magazines he loved, where stories often began in the middle, looped back, and jumped around. It gave the movie its fractured, dreamlike rhythm, a style that kept audiences guessing until the very end. And believe it or not, what we saw on screen was only part of Tarantino's original vision. His first script was much longer, packed with entire subplots that were eventually cut. Even stripped down, the movie felt sprawling and strange, which makes you wonder just how wild the uncut version might have been. So there you have it, the weird, strange, and unforgettable truths behind Pulp Fiction. Tarantino may not want you to remember all of these details, but they're what make the movie so iconic. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the strange world of cinema, hit like and subscribe, because we've got plenty more weird movie secrets waiting for you. This is Strange Flick Facts, where we uncover the bizarre truths behind your favorite films.